So it'll be, I think it'll be fun. I haven't thought of it. I didn't realize it in previous meetings. She sent me her information. I was like, why are you sending this? You asked me to be on
Yeah, no, it's not that. And to get to what's down. And then, yeah, but like there's
Sure. Okay. You want me to start? And I can either way. Okay. Are we about ready to begin? Get the show on the road? Oh God, no! You tricked me.
No, I think we're all gonna. So,
Got everybody? Shall we? Yeah. Welcome everybody. I want to welcome you to Bugs. How many people have been? This is their first time to Bugs. A bunch of new hands. Okay, so my name is Tom Burkett. I'm one of the founders of Bugs. Bugs stands for Baltimore Underground Science Base. And a lot of people ask me why we got this place started, and it was basically to try and break some barriers down that we saw that existed between science and sort of the rest of society, and to communicate some of the developments that are having in biology, and to try and start some communication between science and the general public, and scientists and artists, and lots of different populations. I think what we're gathered here tonight for is a prime example of doing that and the things that result from it. Those of you, so Bugs is a nonprofit organization, and if you are familiar with nonprofit organizations, you know that every year you have to fill out this form for the IRS, and you have to list all these accomplishments. And you know, in the day-to-day, you sort of get swamped, and you don't realize until you look back on all the things that Bugs has done over the past year. And I just want to tell you about some of those because I'm pretty proud of them. So in the past year, we've had about 22 different events, so about one every other week. And those have ranged from talks about the science of coffee to microfluidic devices. So a wide range of kind of scientific talks and artistic talks and conceptual talks. We've taught a number of courses. So we've taught these 5-week courses. We've taught some individual courses that happen in the evenings, focused on individual techniques. So we've touched a lot of people. Just in the first quarter of this year, there's been over 300 individual people that have come through the doors of Bugs that have gotten involved either through courses or talks or things like that. So I'm pretty proud of that we've touched that many people. I think what's really important is some of not just the direct impact that we have, but also sort of the ripples. If you think about a pebble hitting into a pond, that pebble sends out ripples. And I think this biofabrication course is one of those ripples that has stemmed from Bugs. And so, I mean, we're not teaching it or anything like that. All that credit goes to Ryan Hoover here. But I'd like to think we played some small role in doing that. And we've had other ripple effects too. So we had some students that participated in this competition, iGEM competition, similar to Biofabricate, high school students. One of those went on to start her own nonprofit about plastic degradation in the environment and use of plastics in the environment. 2 of them got accepted to, one to Brown, one to Johns Hopkins, one got a full ride scholarship to Johns Hopkins. So we've had a pretty, I think, a positive impact on our community. We've had members that have gotten grants for projects that are going on here. So Ryan and Walter back there have received a grant for a project that they're working on, which is pretty interesting. And I'll leave them because I know nothing about it, so I'll let them talk about it if they want. We've had startup companies that have moved out that have done some preliminary experiments here and gotten some more money and been able to kind of move on. So anyway, I just want to tell you about those things and those impacts, and hopefully you'll spread the word about Bugs, and we'll have even more people come through here. So without further ado, I want to introduce Ryan. I think most of you know him. So Ryan.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. I really appreciate this crowd. It's a sort of wonderful kind of moment for me because it's like this place brings together a lot of disparate audiences. And this night tonight kind of brings together all these different audiences of my life. So it's kind of a fun thing for me. I want to give a big thanks to Bugs for hosting us here tonight. It's great to be here. And a big thank you. Tom was being like pretty modest in terms of like this class maybe being possibly some kind of ripple effect from Bugs. Like this class would not happen if it weren't for Bugs. In terms of sort of the way they really, so the first day I walked through that door, I'm like, hey, I'm Ryan, I'm an artist. And they're like, oh, great, an artist is here. I'm like, I have no idea why you guys are so excited. And it's been that way since. And I've learned an incredible amount through classes and workshops, but mostly just from the people here. It's a really collaborative environment. We've got, it collects a very strange group of people. It collects a group of strange people. But it's a lot of fun. It's very interdisciplinary, and it's a really dynamic place. And I think that spirit really carries through into this course as well. This biofabrication class we've been running at Micah. So I also have to give a big thanks to Micah for this. It's a kind of crazy class to run in art and design school. It's not necessarily an obvious thing that you would expect at an art school. But to see what our students do in this class, once they're taught a little bit about biotechnology and really empowered, I think the value of it's pretty obvious, hopefully. So I hope you've all had a chance to talk with these students about their projects tonight. Just to set a little bit of context for this evening and where everybody's coming from. So this is part of this class we're running called Biofabrication. It's this kind of crazy blitz through biotech, right? So most of these students, haven't done any work with biology since like a high school class, maybe, if they did that. So we kind of start at the beginning of the semester kind of blank slate in a lot of ways. And there's just this kind of intensive blitz through all these different technologies. So learning about synthetic biology. So we're actually doing a little bit of genetic engineering, like in the first couple of weeks of classes, and students, you know, splice together some DNA, put that into an organism, and see it fluoresce. So really, you know, we can talk a lot about biotech and the sort of ethical implications of these new technologies, but it's totally different when you do it yourself. When you sort of handle these organisms, you kind of care for these organisms, you make things with these organisms. It puts all these things in a different context. You experience the seductions of different technologies, and you understand. Then you have to really think about all these things in a new and sort of personal and intimate way. So that's, and it's, to me, it's very critical that we have people grounded in the humanities, understanding these things, and sort of not just communicating these ideas about science to the public, but actively, you know, structuring that dialogue and actually even driving some of that technology itself. So these students just sort of go for it and really pour themselves into this class. As you can see from these projects, they've come a long ways. Most of these projects started like 6 or 7 weeks ago, which is kind of insane. Yeah, they're all probably a little bit insane right now. Yeah, so we do this kind of crazy blitz through all these different technologies. We do some kind of hands-on work. So some of these are things that you might expect in a typical sort of biology or biotech class. Some of them are not. So as soon as we like engineer some bacteria, it's like, well, let's put them through a 3D printer, because that's the obvious thing to do, right? For these guys, it's totally like, of course, that's what you would do with these next. And we kind of play around with these things and have some fun with them in some ways. So maybe it's making a crying Kim Kardashian and blowing E. coli. Maybe it's making sort of more political statements with these words. We also did a little bit of work making a biocement. Again, sort of harnessing these bacteria to kind of create new materials in a much more ecological way. So all the while, sort of doing, looking at research, sort of understanding how to engage in these really complex fields and learn just enough to move forward. And then when they really start taking on to their own projects at the turn of the semester, that's where things kind of really get exciting. So our kind of driving point for this is this thing called the Biodesign Challenge. So it's this great competition. We have Dan Grushkin here, who actually started the Biodesign Challenge, to tell us a little bit more about it. So I won't run my mouth about it. But it's a really great competition that motivates these students and kind of structures a lot of these projects and gives us direction. So I guess I'll bring in Dan. So Dan is not only the founder of the Biodesign Challenge, but one of the co-founders of GenSpace, which is such an important institution for the DIY bio community, really anchored and started all this thing going. Yeah, I'll just let you talk. Dan?
Hi, everyone. So I just want to give the audience context. The students already know this. But MICA is one school participating in the Biodesign Challenge among 22 different universities in 7 countries around the world. There are 24 classrooms, roughly about 600 students in universities, all exploring around the subject at the intersection of biotechnology, art, design. One team from this school will end up representing MICA at MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, on June 22nd or June 23rd. It's a 2-day event. In front of an audience of 200 people, including scientists, artists, designers, curators, proud parents, you name it. And then their work will go on display at the School of Visual Arts in a gallery in Chelsea, which is, you know, the heart of, I don't have to tell this audience. So it's a huge opportunity for these students to not only explore this subject, but also show off their creativity. Last year's MICA team did a project that I have been touting now across the United States. It is just everywhere. And I really believe we're going to just kind of see iteration of these ideas spreading out into the world through a program like this, which is very simple. I mean, it's just getting an organization together and getting classrooms like Ryan's to really just jump in, dive in, without really, you know, without knowing very much at the beginning, but then arriving at a place like this where, you know, I just heard about the slime mold and their preferences, food preferences, and algae, and I don't want to give away any of the projects. They're all fantastic. So I don't know. It's an honor for me as someone who started this basically on a whim. You know, basically out of frustration with the biotech community, frustration for the applications that were not happening out in the world of biotech, and to see that, you know, at least in this community in Baltimore, to see this much attention and this much creativity happening is it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to my staff, and I'm sure, you know, when you see the work that went into it, it'll mean a lot to you as well. So thank you all for coming, and thank you to the students, and thank you to Ryan for taking a gamble on doing this at all. So thank you, everyone.
So yeah, this has been a real team effort here. Again, thanks to Bugs, thanks for all the kind of scientists of Bugs. Also thanks to a number of kind of partners who come in and give this class substance and meaning. So thanks to Casey for having us all over at DSM, kind of, so we could all tour a lab. It was really great. Kind of makes all this kind of real to see this type of production happening at scale, and then to kind of continue on and working with some of our students. Mark in the back there helped out last year with the course and presented his amazing research. So these partnerships that we have with scientists are really valuable. So if you are a scientist and want to sort of get involved with this crazy harebrained stuff, let me know. We're going to keep building this work further and further. We're expanding our classes that we're teaching in this field next year. So we've had some really generous support from donors kind of helping us do this. As you might imagine, this is not sort of part of the typical infrastructure at an art school, and it's not cheap to do these types of classes. It's not cheap to do these types of projects for the students as well. So that kind of support has been super important for all of us here. We're always looking to kind of welcome more people into this process, kind of build this family and this team of collaborators. So without any further ado, I think we'll introduce our first team. Come tell us about your project. Thank you. Alan Davis.
So I like to stand. Yeah, I don't want to. One on each side, is that good for most people?
Actually, we can't see the screen at all.
Should I?
If you take a look at that side,
Yeah.
that's better.
One's right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm David Pine. I'm Alan Doyle, and I would like to welcome you all into the Placenta Network. So when you log into the Placenta Network, this is what you see. It's like any typical social network. You have your own profile, which you can personalize with your information. And you can share information such as photos, events, news, and videos and pages and ideas with your connections. But it's different than a usual social network because your connections aren't guided by your choices and your friends. It's guided by Vicerium, for example.
What is Physarum polycephalum? Physarum polycephalum is a type of slime mold, so it's actually a single-cell, multinucleated amoeba. It has 3 life stages that we're interested in. One of them, but 3 life stages. One of them is a solitary amoeba. One of them is a plasmodium, and then the last life stage is either a sclerotium or fruiting body. So we're interested in the plasmodium stage. So when conditions are just right, it'll actually venture out for food. So the way it does that is by branching out, creating these branches, and developing an extensive network that it'll use to locate food sources and distribute those nutrients throughout its system through a very complex and lengthy network of 2 plasmodium, protoplasmic tubes. There's a network of protoplasmic tubes. So it's actually able to sense nearby food based on chemoattractants in the substrate. So here it's actually sensing if the food is close enough, it can actually pick up on where those oats are located in the dish and grow its way towards those. So that's what we're seeing happening here as it's moving around. A single slime mold can occupy, as you can see, several different food sources, and then it uses those connections in between it to establish a network that it can transport these nutrients. And we can see here it's also very good at establishing efficient networks between these sources. It's often used to solve a complex problem known as like the traveling salesperson problem, where you're trying to find the quickest and most efficient route from point A to point B, which sounds like a simple problem, but in the face of obstacles and more complex environments, it actually becomes very difficult and challenging, especially using traditional like computing methods. Also, on a different note, if there is too much food in one area, the slime mold can actually, not too much food, but if food sources are ample enough in 2 separate areas, you can actually see interesting things happen where the slime mold will separate into 2 colonies. So obviously when there's no food or there's a lack of food, we'll have a detraction of slime mold from that area as it redistributes, but also we can see the mechanic where if there's too much food, we'll also see a separation. Not shown here.
So how do we utilize the slime mold inside our system? So each slime mold, so each person is basically a node with a source of nutrients. And it's within a larger matrix of nodes. And the user's connections are dictated by the connections between each of the nodes and the tubules created by the slime mold in those nodes. So when a user gains new connections, it can also gains like 1 new connection with a node. It can gain a lot more connections because further down that line of connections, it will be connected with all of those. And also when you lose a connection, that can have also interesting effects because you might lose people further, a big portion of your network.
Hopefully the visual assists with that. You can see at the very end stage where these are all connected, if this connection were to become disrupted, this individual would then lose connection with everyone else in that system. So just as a visual aid in that description.
So what are the correlations between this digital world and the physical world of the slime mold? So so each user is like active on their network, and they post a certain amount of information. So that network that activity is then distributed as food or nutrients for the slime mold on their particular node. So that's the food volume. And so a digital connection or friend is then created when those two tubes a tube connects the two. And then so the information that is being is translated is like the nutrients that the plasmodium is transferring. And so messaging and communication is dictated by the physical connection, but also the electrical oscillations that slime mold uses to communicate with itself.
So these electrical oscillations are actually a very notable characteristic of slime mold and how it communicates within its larger body. So very similar to how ants might lay down pheromone trails to alert other members of that same mass. slime mold can oscillate its surface potential in order to propagate down the line and inform the rest of the network of certain factors. So this is just a chart taken from research done by Andrew Radomski and Jeff Jones. These are different waveforms produced by Physarum under different circumstances. So you can see the first one there is a slime mold that just arrives at a state, arrives at a location, and things are looking good. So the other one similar. We can see an agitated state, a leaving state, like departing, and then also the final, the final state where it becomes a fruiting body, or it leaves its foraging state, even basically, and dries up for long periods of time, where it can eventually be rehydrated and go through the cycle again. This electrical oscillation is facilitated through like the release of calcium ions. And this this allows it to like redistribute its cells based on stimuli. So more food in one area, it can tell the rest of the slime to locate to that area. If there's no food, it can send a similar message saying the opposite. This is an experiment that we did to measure those specific oscillations. Another feature of this is also that when you have two separate colonies of slime mold that come together, you will also be able to read that a similar, variation in surface potential between those two colonies. So you can see, we'll have a graphic in the next one, but a very constant potential, and then all of a sudden when they meet, we see a spike happen there. So we're trying to measure that with our experiments, either creating networks that we can measure using aluminum foil electrodes. And we also have this device built for time-lapse photography, so we can accurately sync up visually what's happening with what's happening electrically. So here we see some data. This is at the point where this is the culture in question, so we're looking at those two nodes here, and we can see on the graph, as I was describing before, we have a very low, minimal fluctuations in potential, and then we see these spikes happening here. And those are happening right at the moment that these two are connecting and touching with each other. So being able to measure that and automate that in a way that's not entirely subjective, feeding that into the computer, so we could possibly map that on a larger scale to a larger system.
So what are the implications of mapping slime mold into a social network? So we're kind of deconstructing the usual way that we build social networks, where it's the human's choice of friends, whether that be similar interests or some sort of sub-community. And we're instead replacing it with the decisions that the slime mold is making to connect themselves. When we kind of use this different type of biocomputing, instead of humans biocomputing, the slime mold's biocomputing. And so maybe when we have these slime molds doing these decisions for us, we won't fall into some of the pitfalls that happen in our social network today, where bubbles of communities of like-minded individuals get together and propagate similar ideas, and because they're in a similar environment, those ideas continue to grow, and then they spread news or fake news that they hear with each other, and those ideas are continually spread throughout this digital space. So we're kind of taking like the perceived control of your decisions out of it. So how will people act when they're interacting with the media? Because having activity means you have more nutrients and more information to share and more attractive to the slime mold. But at a certain point, it won't care about other things around it if you have so much information to share, and other things won't necessarily seek out. It won't continue those connections. So also, in a way, you're responsible for the social network that you're a part of. You're, the life of the slime mold depends on you being active and being a part of the network. So what we can observe these new structures being made and see and we could possibly learn different ways to act from it. So how being more active and being less active can change who you're interacting with and who you're connected with, and so many people beyond you who are far away influencing you with information. And that's our presentation on slime mold.
We wanted to say a special thanks to those who helped us along the way with this process. Obviously, Ryan Hoover, thank you for all of your help and support throughout this process. Heather Barnett, she is a leading expert on slime mold. She's an artist herself, and we actually spoke to her, which was immensely helpful. So she's not here tonight, but thank you, Heather. Margaret McDonald, who is here tonight, thank you. Your feedback was also incredibly valuable in the development of our idea and our project. White Feather Hunter, same, and the Slime Mold Collective, which is a child of Heather Barnett, a great resource for artists interested in slime mold on the internet.
And of course, the endless bodies of work of Andrew Adamansky, who is a scientist investigating slime mold, and has countless collaborations and essays, which we learned so much about the physical and the technical things going on with slime mold. Got some, we're excited. We can read that out now. I want to check some sources. Thank you. Thank you.
So we got time for just a few questions.
Yeah. I'm just curious as to, and obviously this has a lot to do with branding, but how are you going to incentivize people to use this social network? Mainly because like it's a competition for food, which Slime Mold I guess knows all about, but like you're competing with places like Facebook and Instagram, and I didn't see anything that really addressed, you know, like why am I going to go on there and use it? I think it's a really great data visualization aid for like I guess visualizing popularity, but have you guys given any thought to that? I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
I have an answer that's maybe not super satisfying. If you have an answer that you want to give David, then you can go for it otherwise.
Well, you know, people kind of interact in the world in kind of many different ways, and by doing this, you might kind of meet something kind of unexpected and find something new that you weren't expecting. And these kind of traditional networks might are kind of a continuation of these ideas and continue that propelling itself. And so, what happens if something else is making different decisions for you based on your action?
Yeah, I think that it's not necessarily that it's better. You know, we're not trying to necessarily reinvent social media and say this is the solution to our problems, but just maybe pose a different idea. So it's maybe not better, but it is different. So, yeah. Yes.
I have a two-part question. The first part is, well, first of all, I clearly see the influence of Heather Barnett in your work. And Heather has done some really interesting work, but with trying to get people to emulate the way that slime mold formed structure. We did a project together called Being Slime Mold, where literally people had tied themselves together in these wild networks. It was a lot of fun. Great party trick. I wonder, one part is, have you tried this with maybe a small network of friends to see how it changes your behavior? Meaning, have you test run it on that, 5 or 10 of your peers? And then, secondly, how do you determine what are the social factors for you that would equate to oats? Meaning, the slime mold is attracted to oats. Would you have an oat in one person's dish or one person's section based on some characteristic of that person, or two oats based on some other characteristic? How would you incentivize your slime mold?
So, for your first question, have we tested this on a small group? No. That is hopefully in the works. So we would like to get that into place in the future, where we can actually have small test run and actually observe some real social data. The second half of the experiment, being the social interaction between people. And then as far as your second question goes, that was how food exactly maps to the system, right? So the model currently stands is that food equates to profile activity. So the more a user logs onto their profile, the more they like, share, the more other users are involved in their profile. So the more traffic basically their profile gets equates to how much food is deposited at their location. So that can have the effect of creating a larger central hub of a spot for them, or it can also separate them from the network as a whole. Like I mentioned before, if the food source becomes too abundant or too prevalent, then the slime mold can actually separate and break connections.
We're essentially trying to equate information and news with nutrients, which
Sure, one more.
Assume for the moment that your arbitrary mapping is incorrect, that you're correct, that slime mold does something and networks do something, and assume that's a really, really good idea to put the two in relation to see something. Assume that's correct. You're basically doing the correct thing. You have to assume that. Now, but assume your particular problem is totally wrong. Tell me the first really interesting byproduct use of this that occurs to you that is unrelated to the initial problem conception. First thing that pops in your mind. I'll share if you will.
Well, the first thing, and I think that this popped into my head the second we started working with it, was pet. How we keep it as a pet. That's probably not the answer you're looking for. David, you might have a better one. I think that's one I have to think about.
I think it's about, Ooh, that is a question.
Since we have to go on, I'll share mine, and later you'll share the one you think of. It occurred to me instantly you had a canary in the attention coal mine. Because what you're really looking at is patterns of attention that can cause bifurcation or regionalization or clumping. That means you could have this read the network, and its life cycle would be displayed as a feedback loop for the community. It wouldn't attempt to control the community. It would just say, hey guys, you got your head up your ass.
Yeah, it becomes a way to show what people are doing without necessarily dictating what they're doing.
So it's a sensor.
And those are some ideas that we toyed with in the beginning were similar, using it as a sort of GPS, or kind of referencing actual behavior, but not directly influencing it. I mean, there is a certain feedback loop happening, when it's then observed by that system, but in a less direct way. So we had thought about certain things in that realm.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. That's cool.
Hi, I'm Tila Ascari. I'm an interdisciplinary sculpture major. Hi, I'm Bridget Phillips. I'm also an interdisciplinary sculpture major.
I'm Sebastian Ruiz. I'm also an interdisciplinary sculpture major.
I'm Caitlin Conti. I'm a photography major. I'm Laura Tadmore. I'm an animation major.
I'm done like some filmmaking major.
And first, we'd like to thank you all for coming out to hear our presentations tonight. We'd like to start with a question. So our question tonight: can bacterial cellulose provide a flexible supply of power? Our current model of energy production requires selfishly depleting our Earth of its resources, but MTech provides a new model. We allow people to utilize their own personal energy. So what we're trying to do is create a wearable that can hold and harness energy from the body. And so how we're doing this is
So essentially, our main investigation was actually material research rather than trying to make and it's like super capacitor or anything like that. We were really trying to investigate the material properties of the SCOBY, which is the mother of the kombucha. Hence where our MTech name comes from. So essentially, we had the idea, what if one day in the future you can wake up, put on this wearable, and harness and use your body to harness energy through your everyday activity. This wearable here was made through filtered carbon nanotubes through the kombucha SCOBY that was pressed under 1 megaton. And then the carbon nanotube ink was filtered through it, and between an ionic gel and sandwiched between an ionic gel and another sample, and that ended up being what we have so far, was being an electrical resistor. And hopefully we're hoping to investigate those properties further and making a supercapacitor, and hopefully being able to charge up energy. So I'll just explain how sort of this process.
So why are we using bacterial nanocellulose? Why can't we just use normal office paper? Well, bacterial nanocellulose has a high mechanical stability, a high chemical stability, and also a high crystalline structure. So this just is a fancy way of saying it's really, really strong, and it has a high tensile strength, so it's not going to rip easily. And so, as Sebastian has mentioned, that we did how we produced this bacterial nanocellulose is that we did a concoction which most of you are familiar with, I assume, is kombucha, which is a fizzy tea drink with vinegar added in. And it's that the enzymes from the tea mixed with this sugary drink creates a food source for bacteria to grow, and then the bacteria will spin this cellulose strings, and it will form this gelatinous material, which is what is known as SCOBY, which is a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And that is also formally known as a mother by some people. The mother can produce more of the bacterial cellulose by layering on top of it each time you brew a new fizzy tea drink. And so what we did with these is that after we harvested that gelatinous SCOBY bacterial nanocellulose, we bleached it in a solution of sodium hydroxide and distilled water. And after we got rid of the sugars and the tea staining, we took that and we pressed it under a paper press to get a thin sheet, paper-like material. And so why were we making this with? Like, what were we doing? What were we aiming for with this idea of a supercapacitor? Well, with bacterial nanocellulose, they have a nice surface area which conductive nanoparticles would like to bind to. And so what we chose as a material for that is carbon nanotubes. And so carbon nanotubes are like a graphene structure, but their structure is quite unique. They're a tubular shape, which produces a high strength. And it also, applying that to the cellulose will allow for a higher flexibility and also a longer lifetime. And so how we did this, how we made this ink, is we purchased carbon nanotubes from cheaptubes.com, which is located in Vermont. And so on a small scale, they're a little pricey. We got 5 grams for $124, but all we needed was 2 milligrams of that, but we had to order that much from the company. So scaling this product up is quite cheap. And so a little annoyance with this quality of carbon nanotubes is that they're hydrophobic, so they do not want to be in water. And so what we did to enforce them to disperse evenly within water is we disperse a surfactant, sodium dodecylbenzene sulfonate surfactant, to be exact, which is a soap basically. And so what this does is that it surrounds the carbon nanotube particles, and it makes sure that it doesn't bulk within the solution. And then we did 30-minute batch sonication, and it was evenly dispersed and ready to coat the nanocellulose. And so how we coated this nanocellulose is we did a vacuum filtration process. And so what we did is we took the carbon nanotube tank and put it in this vacuum chamber funnel. But before we dispersed that, before we did the vacuum filtration, we had to get the cellulose attached to the vacuum filtration. So what we did is on the tube, we stretched the pressed bacterial nanocellulose over the filtration apparatus, and then we also secured it a little bit better with Teflon string just to make sure that it didn't rip because of the suction processes. And then we poured the carbon nanotubes in there, and the water and the surfactant was poured out, and what was left was a black coating of the CNTs. And so we needed an electrolyte. If you're going to make a capacitor, you need something that holds electrons. And so we were following this journal for their protocol. What they were doing and what they were using was a polymer electrolyte, a tripolar polymer electrolyte, which was extremely expensive that we found. And so we found a cheap alternative. We made a agarose NaCl or sodium, which is basically table salt mixed in agarose. So this is extremely cheap and easy to move. And that's what got sandwiched in between two of the coated CNT conductive BXE papers. What we have here presented to you in its current state is a resistor. It's not quite yet a supercapacitor, but what it does and what it performs is that it can slow down the current of like an electrical charge that is sent through it. But we're seeing towards the future, and we're hoping to enable it and push it further into a wearable that can hold energy, that can harvest energy from your body, and someday power other devices or maybe serve as a biomedical yeah.
So another potential application for this is investigating piezoelectric qualities in the cellulose. And you see that the fibers of the SCOBY have this sort of crystalline structure, and if you mix a barium titanate, if you soak the SCOBY in that, that concoction mixed with the carbon nanotubes, once you pull and flex the wearable, we're hoping eventually that can create a charge with that cracking of the material. Obviously, once it's all cracked, you can't really charge it up again. But we're hoping on investigating this material, and that's really the strength in this project. I think is that the versatility of the SCOBY and the mother to be cut up and manipulated versus other capacitors or other ways that people are looking at harvesting energy. So this is just one application that we're hoping to continue researching in the future. So moving forward, also hopefully this material one day can replace resistors and supercapacitors, and they'll be able to be biodegradable because they are made out of the SCOBY mother. We can try testing the SCOBY to grow into different patterns and seeing how that would react. And like I said, investigating that piezoelectric quality and really trying to bring it out of this material to move forward.
And so we would like to thank you, Ryan Cooper, for amazingly guiding us through this very hard but rewarding topic of biofabrication. Margaret McDonald, thank you so much for all of your support and always willing to come and help us on our projects and giving us information. We also want to thank Danielle Rushkin for coming out here and helping us view the new world of biodesign. And then we also would like to thank our two main protocols that we were following, the Eugene Kang and his team at Korea University and Wogun Moon at their team of the Seoul National University. And we also like to thank Mike Foley from Cheap Tubes, who has helped us. He has been in contact with me back and forth when I have asked multiple things about carbon nanotubes to understand their potential. And then we also would like to thank Alan Grover, Dr. Michelle Beatty, or Michael Beatty, Dr. Rutang, and our mothers.
Question?
I have one. So I really like just even the Scoby paper you guys made. It's got a really nice like tooth to it. I like to draw. What do you? I don't know much about growing Scoby. So like, what is the scalability of producing that material?
Well, we grew our SCOBY in a 18 by 24 vat. And the tea that we made was about 6 liters of tea that went into the vat. And then it takes about 2 weeks to grow a nice skin of the SCOBY, which I would say it could, depending on how the temperatures in the environment, like if warmer temperatures will produce it faster, but we were able to grow about like a centimeter thick within 2 weeks.
So you said it comes from kombucha, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys looked into sourcing from like kombucha manufacturers like this SCOBY material, or would you ever consider that? Or is it more like an in-home production thing? Or?
I think this is more, well, you need a mother, first of all. I mean, you can create a SCOBY or a Pelsil from making the tea yourself, but it's a bit harder to do. Where we got our kombucha mother, well, Dan, you got one mother from.
Yeah, so actually, I was growing my mother's from the ends of kombucha that I had drinking myself. They're really easy to grow, and I mean, you can source them from a number of places, but just from the ends of your drinks, you can start growing colonies yourself.
Cool.
Also, another mother that we sourced was from OK Natural Foods. They have mothers for $5, but you have to pay cash for that.
Do you guys, does anybody in this room know, is SCOBY something that was found in nature, or somebody officially put those together to, do fermentations?
I don't know the actual history behind SCOBY, but I believe someone, like I'm assuming someone had vinegar and was hiding in the dark place that was really warm, and it just
started happening.
Yeah.
Okay. All challenging questions are because I think it's very interesting. Do we agree?
Yes.
When you have a bunch of wall warts plugged into the wall, what's that called? It's called vampiric power use. The very first thing, the way you described this, I thought, what could be the possible downside of vampiric bodily energy use. Let's see, how many traditions do I know about that speak about auras and body fields and everything else? Ooh. Did you guys look into this problem at all?
No, we have not.
Is it a problem or opportunity?
No,
Can
she's-
you-
no, no, hold on. She's correct, is the next statement. Literally was. You should, and it's an opportunity, either because you just discovered that, oh shit, this isn't gonna work the way you want culturally, or because you realize that in fact, use of the body energy isn't vampiric, right? But I'm just telling you my first free association, that's why it's not an attack on it. It says you gotta stand outside yourself and look at it from the point of view of something else, right? All cultures have vampire stories that teach you about the inappropriate sucking of energy from the human body and spirit.
On a different note, two thoughts. One is I am so impressed with you guys for the amount of science you were doing and the amount of chemistry you were doing. Holy Lord. I'm just curious, was that intimidating for you? And then number two question, the interesting thing, so when you grow a SCOBY and you create that paper, it is cellulose, just like cotton is cellulose, just like paper is cellulose. So you could imagine a cotton sheet being put over that vacuum seal and creating the same thing on a cotton sheet. I guess I'm wondering, the properties that make kombucha so interesting for people who are making materials with it is that you can literally grow it in, number one, grow it to form, and number two, you can grow your other things into it. Have you considered those properties of the SCOBY? And if you haven't, how would you use those properties of the SCOBY?
So we have discussed, when we very first started, we were like, oh, can we just throw the carbon nanotubes in there? But after discovering that they were hydrophobic, we were like, maybe not. But now, after many tests, it took us a bit of time to be able to disperse the carbon nanotubes, getting that right algorithm into the aqueous liquid. We might be able to pour the CNT ink into the vat, but I think some considerations are is this going to kill it? What is that interaction going to happen? So more tests. So
And what about the science element?
that was terrifying.
Definitely at first, but then I think once we started seeing, some results, it definitely became more exciting and terrifying. That's obviously the rewarding process in this whole thing. And I want to follow up on your other question. And now that we have this SCOBY with the properties of a resistor, maybe we can research into other things that could make it a capacitor or supercapacitor and have to be able to charge. And, adding other things into the kombucha and SCOBY properties that would allow it to become make it do something completely different. Still staying in that realm of having this electrical property. I think it's definitely worth investigating.
I'm not sure I understand. The pure electric thing, are you trying to use the body's radiated energy, or are you trying to generate electricity from the nanotubes sort of rubbing against each other?
So where we think we're going with this, we haven't tested this, but where we are seeing in the future is that we would apply a material that has another crystalline structure to it.
Ethereum, right? Titanate. It would be soaked with that would actually be the kombucha would actually be the SCOBY would actually be soaked in that. So that actually is another following up to your question, and that is that crystalline property that would give the SCOBY a whole other level of capability
that the fact that we would apply it to parts of the body that are flexing or moving, and so that continuous mechanical movement will start the charge and charge the electrolyte and be able to store it.
Speculatively, because like I said, those properties when you create that charge based off of the cracking, based off of the that geometric design is designed to be pretty flexible. That's gonna die out. Like once you crack all those crystal structures and stuff, you can't really recharge that. So obviously that'd be another thing to investigate. But it's definitely, I feel like, a step in the right direction in terms of like that transition from, all right, we have this thing that's a resistor. Now how do we get it in the body and actually get the harness energy? So it's like I said, it's a speculative thing, but that's kind of where we want to end up with this, I think, as a material investigation.
Be great gloves for all the pittagers out there.
Do you know how much of the resistance is provided by the SCOBY versus the carbon nanotube layer?
We have not been able to test that yet.
Yeah, we were actually talking to Paul about that. We had a question, Paul Morel. We had a question. Where is the charge actually coming from, right? And right now it's really hard to tell with like if it's clamped to the ionic gel and the SCOBY and the tube. You can't really tell exactly where it's coming from, but we can prove that the SCOBY is a matrix to hold the nanotubes, and that's where its strength is right now.
Thank you all. Final group.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like 6 foot tall.
Hello. My name's Emily Creasy.
Rachel West. Aaron Kirchner.
That's a decent copy.
The year is 2056. Windmill silhouettes have infiltrated all skylines. Our effort towards a more sustainable culture have increased tenfold. The human population growth has caught up with our production rate. Our investments into solar and wind energy are just not enough. The continual focus on fuel has been successful, but the results are too slow. Out of the necessity, we as a culture are forced to reconsider the other harmful industries, the one that more directly affect us and our behaviors and expectations. We all must comply with the efforts already in place to combat these industries. This time, the push for social change had to consider everything and everyone, unlike it did during the occurrence 28 years ago.
Today, the apparel industry accounts for 10% of global carbon emissions. This is the world's second largest industrial contributor to pollution. It is surpassed only by oil. The fashion industry is the second biggest polluter of fresh water globally. Fast fashion garments tend to be worn less than 5 times and are discarded after 35 days. American consumers discard 7 pounds of clothing a year. Fast fashion is a term used to describe the industry's lean into affordability and mass production. What that means is that back in the day, we had maybe 4 fashion trends a year. Now we have anywhere from 10 to 15. That leads into the consumers want to buy more, right? And creating a greater variety for the consumer to buy. This generates massive amounts of waste. The Chinese textile industry alone produces 2.5 billion tons of wastewater a year. This wastewater contains toxins such as nitrates, sulfates, mercury, arsenic, many heavy metals, cobalt, nickel, the list goes on. There's no effective treatment. There is no effective means of treating this water in the world that's being implemented in the main areas where this is a problem today. 50 sites of contamination and 1 million people are being affected by this. These heavy metals are going into their drinking water and to irrigate their irrigation systems that are used to grow their crops. It's contaminating food. People are being put at risk by all of these poisons, and it's not okay. That's not right.
So how do we, the individual, untangle such a powerful industry? Well, much like the Greeks, but our Trojan horse is the Algematron 3000. Although our front line is a bit smaller than the Greeks, meet our fearless leader, Galdiaria sulphuraria.
Galdiaria sulphuraria is a unicellular eukaryotic algae. It tends to be found in hot springs, which are very acidic and very warm. So it can have a pH as low as 1 to 2, and the temperatures can be as high as 40 degrees Celsius. So what's amazing about these algae and why we're interested in them is they produce a pigment known as phycocyanin, which is a blue-green color, which also fluoresces a hot pink when exposed to UV light. This is very attractive for textile dyeing because it's highly soluble in water, meaning it would be good for dye baths. But above all, since we're trying to approach this from a perspective of sustainability, it's safe for both external and internal consumption. In fact, it's already used in several industries, such as the cosmetic industry, biomedical industry, and my personal favorite, food coloring for knockoff blue M&Ms.
Back in 2017, 4 undergraduate students at the Maryland Institute College Park were introduced to this algae by Casey Littmeyer, the principal scientist at DSM. They're the company that provides 80% of the world's vitamins. As they toured the lab in Columbia, Maryland, he showed them all types of biotechnology used and the way large-scale industries work. As they were packing up to go, he mentioned his individual research in blue pigment produced by algae as a potential for making blue food dye. Their eyes widened with possibilities. 3 out of the 4 of them were fiber makers, particularly interested in dye processes, so naturally this set their imaginations off. Over the next semester, Casey mentored them through the pigment extraction process, and they began their own trials and experiments dyeing with all types of fabrics.
So the process of extracting phycocyanin from the algae begins when we grow up the biomass. So we use a process known as mixed growing. So the first thing is we grow this algae cells in the dark with glucose. Actually, Galdiaria sulphuraria can use a number of carbon sources as its food, glucose, raw sugar, molasses, and even sewage water. So after you grow up the biomass, you create large quantities of cells, then you expose it to sunlight, and then it photosynthesizes. At this point, the phycocyanin pigment begins to express its blue-green color, which is what we're interested in. So then, to begin extracting this pigment from the algae cells, you have to break the cells by vortexing or agitating the cells very vigorously with very small fluorosilicic beads. This causes the cells to break open, and then the pigment proteins will spill out. Then, going from this, you need to purify and extract the particular phycocyanin pigment that you want through a process known as ammonium sulfate precipitation, which is basically where you create such a concentrated solution by adding ammonium sulfate that proteins will be forced out and precipitate out of the solution, so it will leave the liquid and separate themselves. So luckily, glycoside is one of the first proteins that will leave the solution. So after you centrifuge the algae cells which have been broken, then this causes the cell debris that you don't want to go to the bottom, and then it creates a supernatant of the phycocyanin that you want on top, which we're able to separate and then repeat the ammonium sulfate precipitation again at a higher concentration, and then eventually we're able to get pure pigment that we're able to start our dye process. So we decided to approach this the way you would any other natural dye bath. And one of the most crucial things for natural dyeing is you need to mordant. And mordanting is a process where you prepare the fabric to receive the dye. And if you don't mordant, then the dye will not bond as effectively to the fabric, and it could potentially just wash out when all your work goes away, and that's when you make a problem. Since we're trying to approach this from being more environmentally friendly and not releasing like harsh toxins into the wastewater, we decided to use non-toxic mordants. So in this case, it would be alum and tannic acid, since other mordants can contain heavy metals. We created 4 different mordant baths. So alum tartar, tannic acid, and tannic acid. So the acrylic tartar is an additive that you can put into a mordant bath, which can brighten the color, and it tends to work really well with protein fibers, such as silk and wool. So what we did was we cut these very small 2.5 by 2.5 centimeter squares of fabric, so from a range of proteins such as China silk, silk organza, wool twill, and also cellulose-based fibers like cotton, linen, rayon, and velvet, which is kind of like a silk and cotton blend. Another thing is when you are doing natural dyeing, you need cellulose fibers tend to not take the color as well as protein fibers do, so the color won't be as rich. But there's a way to get around this by soaking cellulose-based fibers in soy milk. This coats the surface of the fabric in protein so that it essentially tricks the dye bath into binding to it as if it were protein fiber. So as you can see here, we have velvet, silk, linen, rayon, organza, China silk, and wool, different dye baths, and also we had a control group where we did not mordant the fabric. After we mordanted and prepared the fabric, we had a very small vial of the phycocyanin pigment that we'd extracted, which we then pipetted directly on top of the fabric. Generally for natural dyeing, when you do direct application like this, you either have to allow the fabric to air cure for about a month, but since we didn't really have that amount of time, there's a process to speed it up by microwaving it with roasted plastic. It's about 30 seconds, and then you let it air cure for a week, and then you can wash it out. So these were our initial test experiments, and we found that the protein fibers naturally seem to take the best, and we found the results from the mordant, the alum, tended to give nicer color to show off the blue-green as opposed to the tannic acid, which will tend to throw the color or sadden it, as we call it in the textile world. So this is all very promising. We can use this as potentially use this as a sustainable, natural, safe textile dye. The thing is, once this pigment is exposed to UV light for about 10 to 24 hours, it completely bleaches out.
The occurrence began the morning of November 22nd, 2028. A week prior, the principal scientist at H&M, Edward Toden, leaked classified information exposing just how dangerous the fashion industry was to the environment, citing China as the largest polluter in the world. The EPA pushed for action, causing the abrupt outlaw of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. With the wealth gap at its widest in history, fast fashion was essential to the livelihood of the working class. This attempt at social change was faced with heavy resistance. After days of what was the largest protest in American history, the U.S. government scrambled for a solution outside of its soil. With support from the environmentally conscious left and the overtly nationalistic right, the president declared a trade embargo against China. The decision was defended as a protest against China's lack of sustainability efforts and the first step in bringing clothing manufacturing back to America. Almost exactly like the government's first attempt, the effects of the embargo weighed most heavily on the working class, causing even more of an uproar. Back in Baltimore, a month later, the former classmates met up at their 10-year reunion. The occurrence was the trending topic of the evening, as it was everywhere. Thinking back to their sleepless nights spent under the ventilation hood in the dye kitchen, covered head to toe in productive equipment, they couldn't believe it took so long for a reaction at the fashion industry's impact on the environmental crisis. While reminiscing, they remembered an idea they once had. While it seemed far-fetched at the time, it suddenly felt relevant in this new era. What if they could slow down fast fashion by making it faster? The research with their algae dye showed that the pigment would eventually bleach in UV light. And while that seemed like a problem then, pointed towards a solution now. The Algaematron, a larger machine that not only washed clothes, but dyed them as well. They envisioned a future with less clothing, but more options. Leonardo DiCaprio, a billionaire actor with a passion for the environment, was on the search for makers invested in changing the environment by shifting the culture. The Algaematron 1000 was picked up and funded by Leonard, which brought the speculation into reality. After years of tweaking, the Algaematron 3000 was launched in 2035. At the same time, there was a rumor about the government's potential outlawing of synthetic dyes and their continual attempts to lower the industry's waste. The clothing company Tommy Hilfiger caught wind of these rumors and saw the launch of the Algaematron 3000 as the perfect partnership to recreate the industry once the laws were in place. Their image of the future was simple. You walk into a clothing store, it's essentially empty, with only a few garments on each rack. Each garment, all extremely well crafted, is equipped with extensive information on the past, present, and future of the materials involved. After learning about a handful of garments, your search ends with the discovery of that simple, beautiful shirt you've always wanted. You hand the employee that royal blue shirt of your dreams, and they hand you back the same shirt, but it's white, with one single tag on the inside.
So what do? Where do you go from there? Well, take a look at your tag and you'll see the Algaematron website, www.algaematron.com. On one side of your tag, you have the designer indicated, and below that, you have the serial number of your garment. Go to the website indicated, and you can go to your search bar, put in your serial number, and what will emerge is the designer's template. So the designer of the garment will have a set selection of what colors they deemed best coordinated for that particular garment. You can choose from these colors which best suits your fancy for that day, and then the optimal wash cycle that is for that particular garment and the fibers that it's made from is all incorporated in. So as soon as you pick your settings, you can send it to your machine and your cycle will run. But maybe you're a little funkier than that. Maybe that's not exactly what you want. Maybe you're a little adventurous. So what you can do is go into the machine itself, turn on your manual settings. That will correspond to your computer, and you can go and pick exactly the ratio of color you want based on pigments, and also the surface treatments. So tying of the garment for shibori, which is essentially the original tie-dye, and other surface resist treatments to get your own design. Your machine has a load sensing option, a load sensing component to it. So if you want to dye multiple things at once, you can put that into the load and it will adjust proportions of your pigments and mordant to suit the load size. Technically, how that works.
So on this side, we have an overall model of the Algaematron 3000. As you can see, it looks like your typical laundry machine. However,
when you look at the inside, that's when stuff gets sexy. Over here, we have the detergent, which will get released first so that your clothes actually get washed. No one wants to be stinky, even though you're wearing your cool Superman t-shirt. That's just the reality. So, after your clothes get washed, hot water comes into the machine through this tube right here. This white little bar, as you can see, is our alum and cream of tartar. Alum and cream of tartar need warm water to work so that they can dissolve and be able to attach to the fibers in the best way possible. So after that Mortarton soak occurs, the water is allowed to cool down to room temperature. And after it cools down to room temperature, you're ready for any of these dyes to get released. Let's say for this day you decide you want your blue shirt. The machine tells the cartridge of blue dye to release, to travel down this tube, and to get released into the steel drum that's containing your clothing. And a gentle spin cycle occurs that's going to cause your clothes to get dyed. You do a gentle spin cycle because that imitates the agitation you would use in a natural dye bath to get color to take to fabric. After that dye cycle is done, it drains out here into this drainage system, which then goes out to a recyclable water treatment plant outside the home. More in-depth expression of how that would go.
The Elevatron's popularity increased so significantly that companies were trying to keep up. Multiple companies completely changed their tactics to mimic those of the new wave shopping experience, like Tammy Hilfiger stores. Almost all these companies approached the Elevatron 3000 with partnering ideas, attempting to create their own niche within the new infrastructure. By 2040, the U.S. government could no longer ignore this changing infrastructure and subsidize Elevatron 3000. This government funding brought such speed to its growth that throughout the next 16 years, almost all clothing stores have changed to fit the Tammy Hilfiger model. Laundromats were switched to the Elevatron 3000, making it the most accessible laundry machine in the United States. Even a black market of synthetic dyes appeared because of the rareness of these patterns. They even say they're collected in museums.
So that brings us to kind of talking about what's the big cultural significance of this object. And when we think about describing this shirt, we have an object that exists as a high fashion object because it's well designed, still involves the design industry. It's DIY because you can alter it in the dye bath if you feel like it, or you can control any way you want or do what the designer tells you to do. But then the greater beauty comes when you realize that it's also related to the ready-made by Duchamp. Duchamp with the ready-made had the object and made the commercial object beautiful. And in this way, we're also doing the same, integrating back cloth into being a relevant object that should be sacred and revered for what it can do by sort of integrating the dye process into the everyday home and allowing people to experience that for themselves. We would like to thank all of the people who helped us throughout this process. Brian, our fearless leader, constantly let us into bugs and gave us all his personal time on weekends and allowed me to text him and ask him his questions. Bless you. Yeah, absolutely. Casey Lippenmeyer for giving us all this information. We couldn't have even accessed our bacteria without him, or our algae. I apologize for this. He gave us our science papers. He helped us through this whole process, and we're really looking forward to competing with you at Upstart next year, which should be a party. Margaret McDonald for making us realize that our idea was too scientific. Step it up. I'm a scientist. Thank you for your critique. Thank you for making us realize that as artists, we don't have to be as science-based, but we need to use that information to make better projects. And of course, Bugs for allowing us to use these facilities. Unfortunately, Micah currently doesn't possess the facilities for us to be able to accomplish these projects, but Bugs does. And so, being able to come here and having connections here is really what helped us out. Iris Lee, my good friend, for her superb graphic design work, helped us design a user manual and that visual diagram you just saw, along with our sexy Tammy Hilfiger tag. I suggest you for
Any feelings for it? You should hit up Iris. Volcom really came through and helped us design and construct a garment when we were all going crazy this week, losing our minds and not sleeping. You did sleep last night with us. Really appreciate it. And then Marco, so for a little museum box we made, we were having little brain farts, so luckily Marco was able to help us in terms of making sure we had our measurements correct for making that little box. Thank you all for coming to listen to us and giving us your time.
So when the dye comes out of the washing machine, can it go directly into the sewer, or does it have to be treated?
Yeah, it can actually go directly to the sewer because since it's acidophile, it'll get outcompeted by organisms in that environment. So once it goes into sewage water, it can't survive. Also, along with that, since it's bioremedial, do one of you want to step in?
Well, it has bioremedial aspects to it. So essentially, there's scientists at Arizona State University working on stabilizing the algae and its bioremedial aspects to essentially go into sewage water and be able to lift all the metals and all of the everything out of it and purify it into drinking water. And I believe that it's like at the beginnings of that. Casey gave us a paper on that and told us about that. So in our future model, we would hope that as far as water treatment plants and septic tanks in the home would incorporate that bioremedial aspect of the algae, so that the water being used as far as the septic tank in your house would be recycled, and that would just be recycled like continuous loop. And then as far as the water treatment plant would turn that around and take the biomass that is created from cleaning the water, use that to extract the pigment from, and then go back into the dye. So it would all just cycle.
One more question?
Where does all of our old clothing go in this scenario?
Well, we saw the thrift store kind of approach, and all of the clothes the existing clothes that are still being made would go into thrift stores, and then kind of the shift, the flux of what is in, what is cool, what is costly, and with this, with the new garments in this reality, thrift stores, like all these clothes that we're wearing, would essentially be brought up as rare items and kind of shown as an artifact.
So everything you're wearing now would be considered
vintage. Did you guys eliminate acetic acid as a mordant?
Acetic acid.
Like vinegar as a mordant? Was that not a good mordant, or you guys just
That's
eliminated
not
it?
a mordant we've been classically trained in, with option.
It is something that we could potentially experiment as we continue to go forward with our research and testing different variables and how the fabric reacts to different treatments. So thank you for that.
One last. In terms of the science part, the part that was most interesting as a potential investor, because what you've done is you've decoupled the body form of the garment from the patterning, surface, and color processes. You've inverted the sequence. It's actually out computing early and late binding, where instead of early binding the pattern to the form and then necessarily replicating the whole form, you wait till the end and modify the form. That stabilizes the form. But there's a problem. There's a part of science you haven't looked at, I don't believe. What is that?
I don't know, we haven't looked
I ask them like this on purpose because if you're in a competition, nobody asks things like this. The frequency of fashion updates is probably directly related to job density. So what you've done is you've inverted the job density and you've destroyed a whole ecosystem of jobs, preferably in someplace else. You might want to look into that. because in fact, it might be absolutely brilliant what you just said. I just love parts of it. I just don't, I can see, let's see, masks. Morton does mask. A maskable Morton, oh Christ, I can see how this would work. So I'm getting all excited and I'm going, you're going to destabilize the world's clothing market.
Yeah, but our robot's going to do that anyway.
I think they were incorporating that in there subtly because it was taking over 40 years for this to happen. So the transition probably, whatever variables other were happening in economies and China.
My
and all
job
that
is
stuff.
not to defend the brilliant teacher's obvious. My job is to point out that the very emotion and desire, which was at the core of your desire to solve the problem, revealed some fascinating things that actually didn't necessarily solve the problem the way you thought. So you're going to get what you asked for, not what you want. I meant it in the absolutely most possibly supportive way.
So, lots of things to talk about here. Big thanks to all three of our groups. So our judges will now convene for an impossible task. And while that happens, we invite you all to pick up conversations with each of these groups and also pick up some cookies or brownies or other treats. There's plenty of snacks and refreshments and drinks. Find yourself a little something to munch on, and we'll be convening back here in a few minutes to announce which group is going to continue on and represent Micah at the Biodesign Challenge. Yeah, we should grab something real quick. Nice job.
Yeah, right.